Hey there everyone, so I'm going to go through the basics of what we're creating for this week's brief that is due on the 28th, next Wednesday at 6 p.m. What we're essentially creating is using Photoshop and Illustrator. We're creating a vinyl artwork piece of artwork that will then be placed into a template which will be provided via Teams. That'll be an Illustrator template. So what we're essentially doing is creating some unique artwork and then taking that artwork from Photoshop in a PSD file, and then I'm walking you through how to bring it in as individual layers to Illustrator. From there, we'll take that Illustrator, that new piece of Illustrator artwork, and put it into the vinyl template. So to show you an example of where we're taking it, this is the basic template. This here is a piece of artwork that I've generated in Photoshop. I would like the same functions that we've worked on thus far. I'm going to go through a few more during our sessions today on Thursday, but for submission, the base functions of area selection and type, etc., layering, are necessary for the submission. Then they're brought into Illustrator from Photoshop after they've been generated, and then placed here either with a clipping mask or scaling, and then placed here with a clipping mask. Both clipping masks are pre-made in the Illustrator file template that I'm providing. So basically, here is the Photoshop file, the Photoshop document. Here it is here. So to begin from ground zero, we create a new file. The artwork will be square and we want it a decent resolution. So we want it 1080, a high res format, so 1080 by 1080 in pixels. The resolution is 72, and that's because we're on screen. That's a standard resolution for screen. These aren't going to print. If they were going to print, it would be 300 baseline dots per inch, but these are just for screen. These are standard settings, so we'll create. Thematically, whether you're on graphics or illustration, where that will determine the theme of your artwork. Graphics are towards typographically inclined artworks, please, and illustration are working on the theme of opposites in their artworks. So look at inspiration, look at different vinyl artworks and artists already out there, and then we can start sourcing and creating. So again, I use my general source pexels for free stock images, but you can use any images source that you like, that you prefer and find. This we'll say is my finished piece. We have our layers down here. This is my final piece. To take this into Illustrator, we go File, Save As, and to import it into Illustrator, we have to bring it in as a PSD file. So we'll save it as example for video. Photoshop, save. This is stock, don't worry. And that's that saved. So we'll close. We'll keep Photoshop open, actually, in case we want to make any changes. Please do remember that we want to see these basic functions used. I've done various things like merging layers, but there's a text, there's a piece of artwork created using the various selection tools, proof of layering, various functions in like that that we'll need to see. So then we'll go to the example for video, Photoshop, and that's there to get grabbed. I'll just move it over here. So what will have been supplied to you is the album template AI. That's the Adobe Illustrator file. We'll open that in Illustrator. So when it opens up, you will see the compartmented layers, each one named for a relevant element on the screen. We've got the outer disk here, we've got the shadows placed here, etc., etc. But to bring our artwork from Photoshop in here, we have to go File and Open, and we'll open our Photoshop document into Illustrator. Now, when we do this, we have the option to see a preview. We can do if we need to, if we want to. But here on the options, we have two options. Either flatten the layers to a single image. We don't want to do that. We want them to be layers that are converted to objects, so then they can still be manipulated and used in Illustrator. So also here, import hidden layers determines whether Illustrator will bring in layers that are visible in our layers window from Photoshop. So if you have something hidden in your Photoshop document, it's probably best we do still have them coming in just for the sake of having the full package. So we'll open it up, and here is our artwork. And with that, what we have is our background. We have the red rectangle that is being used behind this. Then we have the artwork that I've created, and we have the text that I created on top. These elements are all still able to be manipulated in Illustrator, which is what we want. So to place it now into our Illustrator file, we will drag and drop the whole piece of work, copy, or drag and drop it in, and paste it in. So we can line it up and simply scale it into position. And then we can show proof that we have used layers from Photoshop to Illustrator by applying this clipping mask to a part of this artwork. So we'll take this cover artwork and apply some of it here to create a full artwork package. So what I'd like to do is apply this part of my artwork. You can apply any part of the artwork you'd like to here. I'll copy, Command C or Control C, copy my artwork. Now to get inside the clipping mask, we can do one of two things. We can either select this clipping mask and right click and release clipping mask. And then we simply delete the original piece, find the clipping mask, and make sure that it's above the artwork that we want to apply it to. Or the clipping mask, the path, always has to be above the artwork we're applying it to. So we'll bring it up, put a new one in to be clipping masked. Again, make sure it's on top. Find our clipping mask and then select them both by having this selected, shift and then click the path, and then right click, make clipping mask, and then we have our center piece. This we want below the sleeve, so we can just place it below the sleeve. So there it is, nice and hidden and created. The second way to apply it to a clipping mask is to simply, again, copy the artwork that we want to place in there. Then go into isolation mode. We do this by selecting our clipping mask that already has an object inside it, the orange element, and we double click. This takes us into isolation mode. We can see the layers have changed to say isolation mode, but that only shows us the isolation mode for this image. We're still not inside the clipping mask. So we double click again, and now we can see the object. So we'll probably delete our rectangle, place our object in, about there. We can remember where the center is. And then to get out of the clipping mask isolation mode, we simply double click somewhere else. And now it's in there and clipped. To manipulate it again, we double click again, move it around. Now this bit will be the part that's clipped. From there, we have our artwork. The submission for this is a PNG at 1920 pixels wide and 1080 high. This template that I've supplied you is already those dimensions, so no need to worry about that. What we just need then is File and Export As. And this will allow us to select PNG. If you have the option, depends on Mac and Windows and the settings, please select Use Artboards. What that does is if you have something clipped that is larger than the artboard, then it will ignore it. If you don't have that clicked and something is in a clipping mask, is hidden, that is larger than the artboard, Illustrator will try to save that within the PNG, within the exported file, and that's not what we want. So then we simply save it as example for video PNG, export, hi, okay. Once you've got the file and have named it something relevant and appropriate, then please upload it to the appropriate course digital workshop folder area. If you have any questions, please let me know. Feel free to watch this video as much as necessary, and as always, I'm completely available on Teams. So good luck and